It's September 13th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Jong-un. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with North Korea's first ever disclosure of a uranium enrichment facility. The regime made public its uranium enrichment facility for the very first time on Friday, where the leader Kim Jong-un expressed pride and called for more nuclear weapons making. SpaceX managed to perform a historic first private spacewalk on Thursday morning, with a crew made up entirely of non-government astronauts. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has further widened her lead over former President Donald Trump in a recent survey conducted after their debate on Tuesday. Trump rejected a second one with Harris, despite calls from Harris for another. North Korea has, for the first time, publicly revealed a uranium enrichment facility, a key component of its nuclear weapons program. This display of its nuclear arsenal development is being seen as an attempt to put pressure on the U.S. ahead of the presidential elections. Our Min Hee-jin starts us off.
North Korea showed its uranium enrichment facility for the first time as leader Kim Jong-un took a tour of the site and urged further nuclear weapon development. Photos released by the state-run Korean Central News Agency on Friday showed Kim walking past rows of centrifuges, learning about the operation of its production lines. Uranium needs to go through a process called enrichment to be developed into an effective nuclear fuel, spun in a centrifuge to separate its isotopes and concentrate the one that is needed. The KCNA did not reveal when the visit occurred or the location of the facility. Kim reportedly expressed great satisfaction during his visit, saying he felt strong just looking at the technology on display, and praised the achievements of scientists, engineers, and the military in the nuclear weapons production sector. Calling for an increase in the number of centrifuges, he pressed the need to strengthen Pyongyang's nuclear capabilities and outlined a long-term plan to do so. South Korea and U.S. intelligence authorities believe that North Korea has uranium enrichment facilities in Yeongbyon, North Pyongan province, and in the Kangsan complex near Pyongyang. In 2010, North Korea invited U.S. nuclear physicist Siegfried Hecker to a uranium enrichment facility at the Yeongbyon nuclear facility. In an interview last year, Hecker estimated that their total uranium production capacity is about 150 kilograms, roughly 6 bombs worth per year. North Korea's surprise disclosure of the uranium enrichment facility is interpreted as an attempt to put pressure on future negotiations with the U.S. by showing off its nuclear armament ahead of the U.S. presidential election, which is about 50 days away. Stepping up to put the spotlight on the regime's fighting capabilities, Kim was reported to have visited the training facility of North Korea's Special Operations Forces to oversee a combat drill on Wednesday, according to a separate KCNA report. He was said to have emphasized the importance of enhancing training content and methods and the role of the Special Operations Forces on the battlefield. Min Hee-jin, Arirang News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned the West against lifting restrictions on the use of long-range missiles by Ukraine. Speaking to a state-owned TASS news agency on Thursday, Putin said allowing Ukraine to use long-range missiles to attack Russia would be met with an appropriate response, adding it will mean NATO is at war with Russia. According to Putin, NATO countries are not discussing the possibility of Ukraine attacking Russia with long-range weapons provided by the West, but rather on how to directly participate in the conflict alongside Ukraine. The Russian leader also pointed out that the Ukrainian military doesn't have the satellites needed to use long-range weapons to attack Russia and could only do so without information from NATO member countries, the EU, and the U.S. U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris continues to widen her lead over former President Donald Trump in the latest poll. Despite Trump claiming he won the debate, he's still refusing a second one before the November election. Lee Seung-jae reports.
According to a CNN flash poll that followed Tuesday's televised debate in Philadelphia, 63% of registered voters felt Vice President Kamala Harris performed better than former President Donald Trump. And the Democratic presidential candidate's performance helped boost her support, as another poll showed that she had widened her lead over Trump. In a new Reuters Ipsos survey conducted between Tuesday and Thursday, Harris garnered 47% support compared to Trump's 42%, giving her a 5 percentage point lead over the former president. The latest poll asked 3,095 people, with 1,405 of them registered voters. In a similar survey last month, 45% of people surveyed preferred Harris compared to 41% of the respondents who picked Trump. While the majority in the CNN flash poll showed that Harris performed better than Trump during Tuesday's debate, the former president disagreed and claimed that he won the debate. Trump also said he won't debate Harris again. Taking to his social media platform Truth Social on Thursday, Trump said the first words out of a prizefighter who loses a fight is "I want a rematch." The Harris camp had called for a second debate, as President Joe Biden and Trump had agreed to 2 debates for the elections. Meanwhile, Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance's false claims of Haitian immigrants taking people's pets and eating them have led to increasing fear among the immigrants of being targeted. The City Hall in Springfield, Ohio, the city that was put in the spotlight due to those claims, temporarily closed on Thursday amid bomb threats. The threats also come as an online Haitian media outlet out of Springfield warned its residents of threats being issued at several schools with Haitian children. The city has seen a large inflow of Haitian immigrants in recent years due to its low cost of living and job opportunities. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The 79th UN General Assembly opened on Tuesday. World leaders, policymakers, and international stakeholders are once again gathering in New York to address the world's most urgent challenges and issues related to peace and security. For more, we turn to Professor Han Shuttle this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Dami.
So this year's theme for the General Assembly is leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations. What does that say about this year's edition?
Well, I think for one, the UN is trying to take the long view and look at the big picture globally again in the aftermath, or near aftermath anyway, of the COVID-19 pandemic, the worst of it. I think public health took center stage for a few years at the UN, and now I think they're trying to broaden out. Quite literally, the Palestinians will not be left behind this year. They're now going to have a seat at last at the UN General Assembly, though they're not yet a full member. There was a resolution earlier this year to give Palestine some additional rights while keeping Palestine an observer rather than a full member of the UN. And I think the war in Gaza, the conflict between Israel and Hamas in particular, will be a front burner issue as well, because there's, of course, very high pressure at this point for the two sides, for Israel and the Palestinians, to reach a ceasefire in that conflict. That conflict was not going on the last time the UN General Assembly met. It began, of course, in October of last year when Hamas attacked Israeli civilians. So this is the first big meeting where they'll be trying to address this. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be speaking at the General Assembly. And he's, of course, long accused the UN of being anti-Israel. So that should be a very interesting speech. And Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas will also be speaking, both of them on the same day. So that will, I think, be a major issue as the summit goes forward.
Definitely, geopolitical tensions, especially the Gaza conflict, will no doubt top the agenda. On top of that, Iran is also attending, reportedly looking to, rekindle talks about the broken nuclear deal with the West at the General Assembly. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think it is unlikely that Iran is going to get what it's looking for here, but its president and its foreign minister are making the case to try to restart movement towards some sort of a nuclear deal. Again, this was agreed to during the Barack Obama presidency, and then Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of the agreement, which weakened the agreement. There were several European countries involved as well, so I think the EU member states are also on the receiving end of lobbying for Iran right now. But there are a couple of factors here. One, Iran has been clashing at times and even attacking Israel during this war involving Israel and Gaza over the past year. And that will not exactly bring about an appetite for negotiations on nuclear weapons there right now. Even the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, has been criticizing Iran over that. And the other factor is with the U.S. presidential election, I think the last thing that the Kamala Harris campaign would want to do at this point would be to try to extend something and approaching an olive branch toward Israel at this juncture, toward Iran at this juncture, because I don't think there's popular support in the U.S. for another nuclear deal with Iran. Now, when Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out, he did not suffer any kind of backlash in public opinion. But I think if there were movement toward reestablishing that deal, it would come back to haunt the Democrats. So for that reason, I don't think the Biden administration will be on board for it either.
So you're saying the EU and the U.S. will probably turn down the proposal from Iran. But I would like to ask you, why is Iran bringing this deal again at this year's edition?
Well, I think they're looking for investment, and they're looking to be seen as less of a rogue nation globally, and they're looking for anything they can do to further advance their economy. And certainly the previous agreement was one way to do that. So money is often one factor.
Well, on top of that, on top of Gaza conflict, we also have to talk about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be there again to, beg for stronger support from the West. Do you think that will be realized?
That's interesting. And we just saw, of course, the news coverage earlier in your report, Dami, about the statements from Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader, basically threatening the West not to loosen the restrictions on long-range missiles potentially being used from Ukraine toward Russia. Putin claiming that would put NATO at war with Russia, which is going to sound quite threatening to leaders in the West. But Volodymyr Zelensky will be at the General Assembly speaking later this month, and he's looking for further reinforcements from the West. I think we'll certainly see another resolution from the UN. We've seen previous resolutions from the UN criticizing Russia, and this leads to an interesting issue because another topic on the agenda this year at the General Assembly is going to be potential reform of the Security Council. Russia, the belligerent, the invader here of Ukraine, it is one of the 5 permanent members on the UN Security Council, and especially since its attack on Ukraine, there's been some renewed pressure to try to think about how to rejig the composition of the Security Council. So the 5 countries that were basically at the helm of world power after World War II in 1945 when the UN was founded, so they would no longer have disproportionate voice on the Security Council. This would be Russia, China, France, Britain, and the U.S. So I don't think those 5 countries are necessarily going to agree to UN Security Council reform this year, but the fact that people are talking about it shows some dissatisfaction growing, I think, with Russia's position at the UN Security Council. And I think there will be some sort of symbolic reinforcement for Zelensky, even if it doesn't necessarily help him kick the Russians out of eastern Ukraine any
Professor Shadow, before I let you go briefly, another notable figure at this year's assembly is North Korean Foreign Minister Chun making presence for the first time as a foreign minister since 2018. Why the presence now?
I think this is very interesting, Dami. And of course, we can juxtapose this with the report that you just aired a few minutes ago about Kim Jong-un and basically flaunting the uranium enrichment facilities in North Korea. To me, this suggests that Che might try to make some sort of statement at the UN saying that North Korea wants to be seen as a member of the nuclear club, more legitimated nuclear power. I mean, who knows what she'll say? I don't think anybody really has an idea, and I haven't seen much speculation in the news coverage as to what she would say. So I'm putting myself on a limb by saying that. But it seems between Kim's statement, which, as your reporter said, may be timed in advance of the U.S. presidential elections, but it's also coming right at the start of the UN General Assembly with his foreign minister in New York. So they may be trying to make some statements for greater legitimacy. And one other thing, she's reported anyway by Japanese media to be likely having talks at this with Russian and Chinese delegates as well. So that may be the other, may not so much be her speech, but also what she does behind the scenes in New York and who she's seen as with in New York. And if she is seen with the Russians and the Chinese, it may suggest some sort of a growing alliance with those 3 countries in this part of the world. So definitely something to watch.
All righty, Professor Shadow, thanks so much for joining us this morning. You have a good one.
Thank you for having me, Donnie. Take care.
Over in Japan, high-level officials from South Korea, China, and Japan in charge of culture met on Thursday to expand cultural cooperation, following tourism talks the previous day. Ahead of the trilateral meeting, also addressed was the recent controversy over Japan's Sado mine. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has this report.
2024 marks the 25th anniversary of trilateral cooperation between South Korea, China, and Japan, which began in 1999 with a breakfast meeting on the sidelines of the ASEAN Plus 3 summit. This year, the three countries are focused on deepening their cooperation through culture. On Thursday, representatives from the three nations gathered in Kyoto for the 15th South Korea-China-Japan Culture Ministers meeting. South Korea was represented by First Vice Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism Yong Ho-sung after Minister Chun had to return to Seoul for a parliamentary questioning as the National Assembly had not approved his absence. China's Vice Minister of Culture and Tourism Zhang Zheng and Japan's Minister of Education, Culture, Sport, Science and Technology Moriyama Masahito were also in attendance. The meeting resulted in two key documents. The Kyoto Declaration emphasizes the importance of cultural exchanges and cooperation to promote mutual understanding and to further strengthen trilateral relations. The three sides also signed a memorandum of cooperation to designate 2025 and 2026 as years of cultural exchanges.
We agreed on the importance of expanding cooperation beyond arts and culture to include sports and programs involving the future generations.
In the bilateral meetings that South Korea held with Japan and China ahead of the three-way talks, eyes were on the follow-up measures for Japan's Sado Island gold mines being listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The site has been a point of contention as Koreans were forced to work there during World War II under Japanese colonial rule.
We asked Japan to improve its exhibits at the Aikawa History Museum on the hardships faced by Korean laborers, as the current displays are mostly simple panels. We suggested making them more permanent and detailed. We also requested that senior Japanese officials attend the memorial ceremony for the mine laborers.
Simplifying visa issuance and entry processes with China was another key topic. Both sides agreed to initiate working-level talks involving the foreign and justice ministries to streamline these procedures.
Until now, we didn't have a regular framework for tourism cooperation with China, so we agreed to set up a regular high-level consultative body.
The meeting ended with a joint performance between opera singers of the three countries and Japan's multicultural orchestra ensemble Kanazawa Chamber Orchestra. Promising more cultural exchanges in the next 2 years and beyond, the three countries wrapped up their culture ministers meeting on Thursday. The trilateral meeting's 16th edition will take place in China next year. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Kyoto.
Good morning, I'm Kim Jong-un and this is The World Now. The Polaris Dawn space mission crew aboard a SpaceX capsule have become the first non-professional crew to complete a spacewalk. Billionaire tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman, who commercially funded the mission, and Sarah Gillies, a SpaceX engineer, stepped out of the spacecraft around 15 minutes apart, beginning at around 10:52 on Thursday, Greenwich Mean Time. Isaacman said emerging from the spacecraft that back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world. SpaceX engineer Gillies emerged from the capsule after Isaacman returned a few minutes later. This walk, conducted at an altitude of 700 kilometers, was higher than any previous spacewalk and used new extravehicular activity astronaut suits. Also aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule were Scott Petit, a retired U.S. Air Force veteran, and SpaceX engineer Anna Menon. The mission, launched on Tuesday on the Resilient spacecraft, aims to travel up to 1,400 kilometers up in orbit, going further than any human has done since NASA's Apollo program, which ended in the 1970s. Now, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on Thursday condemned Wednesday's attack by the Israeli military on a school in Gaza run by the UN's Palestinian refugee agency, the UNRWA. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said that Wednesday's airstrikes on the school compound in central Gaza killed at least 18, including 6 UNRWA staff, women and children, bringing up the total number of UNRWA staff deaths in the conflict to 220. Dujarric said that, quote, "The continued lack of effective protection for civilians in Gaza is unconscionable, and that this incident must be independently and thoroughly investigated to ensure accountability." Now, the US White House also said on Thursday that it is in touch with its Israeli counterparts for more information on the airstrikes. The Israeli military on Thursday stated that 9 men, it said were Hamas militants, were killed in the UNRWA school airstrikes. UNRWA reported that the attack saw the highest death toll of its staff in a single incident, while Guterres called upon all parties to refrain from using schools and shelters for military purposes. Storm Francine, which struck Louisiana as a Category 2 hurricane on Wednesday, has now passed over New Orleans, pouring 13 to 18 centimeters of rain on the city. According to the National Hurricane Center, Francine made landfall at the Terrebonne Parish, South Louisiana State, at 5 p.m. local time, but calmed into a post-tropical cyclone with sustained wind speeds of around 40 kilometers per hour. No deaths were reported. However, both Louisiana and Mississippi declared states of emergency, while the National Weather Service issued a flash flood emergency warning for some 12 million people. According to PowerOutage.us, some 320,000 customers were temporarily without electricity in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama and Tennessee. Now, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry on Wednesday told residents to stay off the roads, stay home and stay put. Stars shined once again at this year's MTV Video Music Awards, celebrating its 40th edition. American singer Taylor Swift took home the top honor at this year's annual Video Music Awards with the black and white music video Fortnite featuring rapper Post Malone. The video for Swift's first single from the album The Tortured Poets Department was released in April and is set inside a bleak hospital, which Swift said reflects what she sees in her head. Now, Taylor Swift took home a total of 7 awards on Wednesday night, including Video of the Year. Other winners included Sabrina Carpenter for Best Song, Eminem's Houdini for Best Hip Hop, and Chappelle Rowan's for Best New Artist.
Good morning. It's a wet and cloudy start to the eve of the Chuseok holiday weekend for the capital and Gangwon-do province, with rain clouds passing by. And it's going to rain on and off all day in central parts of Korea. The capital and northern parts of Gangwon-do could see 20 to 60 millimeters of showers under gray skies. Southern provinces, however, will be under sunnier skies, seeing sporadic rain at times. So the heat stays in southern regions, with heat alerts being in place. Temperatures could hover around 33 degrees Celsius this afternoon. But rain gives heat relief to the upper regions, staying below 30 degrees. Seoul gets up to 27, but Daegu and Gyeongju topping out at 34 degrees this afternoon. Now, due to the indirect effect of Typhoon Babinka that's heading towards the south coast of Shanghai from Okinawa, more heat will be pushed towards the Korean peninsula. So expect to have summer-like heat with showers during the Chuseok holiday. And on the day of Chuseok, we will be able to see the full moon, but not as clearly as we'd like. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. A new day at Arirang will be back next Thursday after the Chuseok holiday.
We change today, inspiring daily life. We create tomorrow, inspired by innovation. Change today, create tomorrow. Lotte.
언뜻 보면 왕가의 미스터리 혹은 혈투 같은 걸 담고 있지만 속으로는 주목받지 못한 사람들에 대한 이야기를 담고 있습니다.
과하게 재촉하는 걸음 믿어주는 마음 믿지 않는 마음 이것이 임금이 가져야 할 미덕 그것이 왕이란 자
요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기.
한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥? 취향 따라, 입맛 따라.
이런 한국 와보지 않고는 모를걸?
Children's laughter, hope, dream. K-animation belongs in them. Interesting and valuable story that transcends between everyday life and dream. Surprising spectacle where imagination becomes real. an array of subjects catering from infants to adolescents. For our story to reach all corners of the world. K-animation makes healthy laughter for children.
We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new style, and new topics every day.
We're News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Friday, September 13th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yejin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Yoon Se-young.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Ki Kim.
Happy Chuseok.
Happy Chuseok and happy
Chuseok.
Friday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, today we're going to straight move on to our main discussion of the day by taking a look at the screen.
Next Tuesday, September 17, is Chuseok, the Korean Thanksgiving holiday. Traditionally, families gather on Chuseok to perform a ritual called charé, where they honor their ancestors by offering food made from freshly harvested crops. After the ritual, family members enjoy the food together. Since delicious food is such a key part of Chuseok, today, we're going to take a closer look at what foods and drinks are popular with our generation during this special holiday.
Right, so tomorrow marks the start of the Chuseok holiday in Korea. Yay! So as we mentioned, Chuseok is a time when we get to enjoy a wide variety of traditional Korean dishes. So starting off, can you tell us more about this holiday, Se-young, and what kind of dishes are kind of like the signature food of Chuseok?
Sure. Chuseok is one of Korea's most iconic holidays, and personally, I love Chuseok.
Me too.
Because it's time of year when fruits and all the grains are fully ripe, so there always are tons of delicious food.
And they taste good.
Yes, of course. And speaking of Chuseok, the food that always comes to mind is songpyeon. It's a half-moon-shaped rice cake made by kneading rice flour and filling it with things like beans, sesame seeds with sugar, or even chestnuts, and then steaming it onto top of pine needles. And there's even a saying that if you make songpyeon beautifully, you will have beautiful daughters. And I think I was pretty good.
Yeah, because you have a beautiful daughter.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Your mom.
Yeah, right. So songpyeon is one of the signature dishes, the rice cake of Chuseok. Now, what are some other dishes or your favorite Chuseok food, Ki?
Well, I always loved Chuseok just for the fact that, I always worked on Chuseok. It's a different side of story. But I always loved Chun, something greasy, something oily, of course. It's a Korean-style pancake with various ingredients such as meat, vegetables, or filet. When you look at any Korean drama, in national holiday, Chuseok scene especially, you're going to see a lot of ladies gathering around the stove and talking to each other and making chun, of course, and frying chun all the time. And you'd always steal a couple of chuns while they're making, because it's always good when you eat fresh, right after the pan, and while your mom or your aunties are cooking. And then you don't eat them actually when the whole family gathered together, right? And galbijjim, braised short ribs with a soy sauce, japchae, mixed dish of boiled bean threads with stir-fried vegetables and meat. Namu, seasoned vegetables are a common dish we eat for Chuseok. And of course, like Se-young said, it's harvesting season. So apple, Korean pear, and also persimmons are common dessert that you would serve for Chuseok dinner.
Just thinking about them makes
I'm
my mouth
already
water.
hungry, even though it's not Chuseok yet. And it's actually not the main dishes, not only the main dishes that our panelists mentioned. Traditional Korean snacks are also placed on the charé table, which we get to enjoy once the ritual is over. I think that's the moment when everybody is super excited, right?
Right, definitely. You can enjoy traditional Korean snacks like yuga or yakgwa, a deep-fried traditional Korean cookie that is rich with flavor of ginger, honey, and sesame oil. oil after the ritual. And drinks like 식혜 and 수정과 are also must-haves during the holiday, especially during Chuseok. You end up eating non-stop, right? And when you drink 식혜 or 수정과, it helps you with the digestion, so you can even eat more after drinking 식혜 or 수정과.
So you're only drinking to eat more.
Right. And these days also K-cafes are coming up with all sorts of creative recipes featuring these traditional snacks or drinks, and they are becoming super popular with the younger generation. For example, a few months ago, drinks or desserts using sweet chestnut jelly bars inspired by BB's hit song condemns were super popular among young people. And this whole 할매니al, a mix of grandma, 할머니, and millennial vibe has become a key concept for MZ crowd these days, as those nutty and sweet drinks and snacks are trending again.
Right, and I think that you just gave very good news to our viewers, because even though you don't have the tare ritual at your home, you can easily enjoy these Korean traditional desserts or snacks at cafes. So if you're in Korea, please try them out because they're super delicious. And also, with the growing popularity of these traditional Korean snacks, I've heard that many brands such as cafes, as Haeyoung mentioned, are now adding a fun modern twist to these food, right?
Exactly. I can see the very happiness and smile in your face as we were talking about food. Just like they were mentioning, what our 할머니 or grandma's generation used to like as snacks have become a very super trend again, with a modern twist, such as a cute and nice display with a nice packaging. Especially yakgwa, deep-fried traditional Korean cookies, brought about a new word, namely yakketing, combination of yakgwa and ticketing.
I've done yakketing before.
Yeah. Seriously?
Yeah, I did.
Some of these popular stores are almost impossible to get hands on these snacks.
Right.
And also other snacks like Monica, although it was a Japanese snack, but is popular among our 할머니 generation because they suffered from the time when Japan invaded Korea. And 누룽지 과자, the crust of overcooked rice, are getting popular.
With sugar on it?
Exactly. Sugar powders on top. Obviously, you definitely need that to add a bit more flavor in it, but it's just great.
Right, so a lot of snacks, a wide variety of Korean traditional snacks for Chuseok, and you can enjoy at cafes and stores here in Korea as well. Now, it seems that the younger generation, us, has found the perfect drink to pair with these snacks, especially when all that delicious food can feel a bit heavy. So what's their favorite way to wash it all down and start all over again?
I think it's time to talk about liquors. Traditional liquors are also catching the eye of the millennials and Gen Z as unique, or should I say hip drinks.
Right.
And especially makgeolli, Korea's traditional rice wine, is really getting a lot of attention these days. There are all sorts of new varieties popping up, like a fresh makgeolli made from glutinous rice, or flavors like yuzu, strawberries, or pokbunja, Korean black raspberry. And just hearing those flavor combinations, it's easy to see why they are so popular, right? And plus, traditional liquors like andong soju or munbeju are still holding on to their classic taste. But at the same time, they're upgrading the packaging and design to fit the MZ vibe.
Right. So what used to be kind of regarded as being old or traditional has ironically gained traction among the younger generation, and it has become a big trend in Korea's F&B industry. Now, what are some other drinks that you'd like to recommend to our viewers, Ki?
Well, as an expert in this field, adding to that, samhaeju is another traditional drink, and they have this experience program. It's getting popular. So they actually makgeolli themselves. So starting with takju, or the raw rice wine, is similar to makgeolli, and then they filter that. Then it becomes cheongju, which is refined rice wine, so it's a bit clearer. And then after you distill it, then it becomes soju, which is something that's similar to vodka. So you try all these together, and you can try all these 3 samples, and it's a nice 3 sets with a bit of snacks there. And not just alcohol beverages, but conventional cafes joined this movement. Starbucks recently came up with makgeolli cream cold brew. Shake Shack released a summer-only menu called makgeolli shake, which does have alcohol in it, by the way. I've tried both of them, and they're good. So especially makgeolli shake can be enjoyed by everybody. It's got makgeolli's unique taste, but at the same time,
but not minors, right?
Not minors, of course, minors. With the sweet flavor, the milkshake actually has. So it's a burger house, obviously, so it goes well with the burger, but I'm sure it's going to go well with any other cuisines in Korea or any other foreign cuisine. So it's just amazing.
Wow. He sounds like an expert.
You guys both sound like experts. I'm pretty sure that our viewers are kind of making this long list of Korean traditional food or drinks that they'd like to try out. Now, to find out about other food and dishes, traditional dishes and drinks in other countries, we also asked our viewers to introduce some traditional drinks and dishes in their culture. And here's what 3 of them had to say. If we look at the comments, the first comment says, I'm from Spain and my favorite Spanish dish is called gazpacho. It is a cold tomato soup blended with other raw vegetables. It has a similar feeling with eating Korean naengmyeon, which is cold noodles. Leonteo93 says here in Singapore, laksa is a spicy coconut milk noodle soup with a rich, creamy texture and a balance of sweet, savory, and spicy flavors. Also, chili crab, which is a signature Singaporean dish featuring succulent crab cooked in a thick, spicy tomato-based sauce. Hazelman6671 says in Sri Lanka, we have plenty of traditional burudu or holiday sweets and snacks. A popular one is kanda kavun, which is an oil cake fried in oil on a stick. They all sound super delicious. I wish I had the chance to taste them all. But now let's come back and talk about the Chuseok food culture here in Korea. To find out more about this topic, we're now going to invite the founder of a traditional Korean dessert brand based in the United States after a short break. We're back. So today we're joined by Jennifer Lee Pan, founder of Rice Blossoms, which is a modern Korean dessert brand based in New York. Welcome, Jennifer, to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you. So our first question for you, Jennifer, is, in your opinion, what dish best represents Chuseok, the Korean Thanksgiving holiday?
Yeah, well, I think you guys said it all in the beginning. The Chuseok, which is the Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival, the well-known dishes, in my opinion, would be the various types of Chun, the Korean-styled pancakes, which uses meat, fish, zucchini, and other types of vegetables, some seasonal fruits, such as pear, persimmon, and dates, galbijjim, which you guys mentioned as well, and most importantly, the songpyeon, which is a Korean dessert traditionally made and consumed during Chuseok.
Right, Jennifer. Then when we talk about Chuseok, we can't forget about songpyeon, just like you said. And could you share with us the significance of eating songpyeon during Chuseok and some tips on how to make them especially tasty?
Yeah, the significance of songpyeon is not only about the families coming together to make them, but I think it's also why and how it's made. Songpyeons are made with rice flour and water, and the dough gets rounded in shape at first and then folded in half after adding the fillings, such as mung beans, sesame with brown sugar, and etc., which is supposed to resemble the moon. So it's made as an offering to their ancestors to thank the year's plentiful harvest and to wish for a healthier and prosperous year to come. And to the tips to how to make them delicious, I think the dough shouldn't be too watery. It should be almost like clay texture, and the skin shouldn't be too thin because it might burst as you steam. And also, my little tip is when you're making your fillings, we like to add a pinch of salt to it to enhance the sweetness.
Ooh. Wow. Thanks, Jennifer. And, Korean food are getting popular, but also, what are some of the Chuseok dishes that would be easy and approachable for those who are new to Korean cuisine?
Yeah, well, I think galbijjim is like one of the most popular items that are popular to non-Koreans as well. The meat is very tender and sweet and soft, so I think everybody enjoys that. And Chun, like I mentioned earlier, is pretty approachable. It's like the Korean-style pancake, and it's made with healthier ingredients, I would say. And Dessert-wise, songpyeon's, of course, it's approachable because it's sweet and nutty. I mean, who doesn't like sweet desserts, right? I also have a fond memory of making songpyeon with my aunts and grandma as a child as well. So I think by spreading stories like that can also make it more approachable to others as well.
Some very good and also delicious tips from you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your time today, and we hope you have a happy Chuseok with all your loved ones.
Thank you. You guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Chuseok.
Happy Chuseok. Bye.
Bye. Right, so for anyone interested in trying out traditional Korean dishes and drinks, I'm sure a lot of our viewers who are tuning into NewsJeans right now would want to taste them out because you guys and Jennifer explained them so well. So now, let's talk about some spots that you guys want to recommend for those who want to actually visit Korea and try out these food and beverages.
Well, if you really want to dive deep into Korean traditional dishes or food, snacks, I highly recommend checking out the traditional markets in Seoul.
Called Sijang, right?
Right, and one of my go-to spot is Gwangjang Market in Seoul.
Right.
But I've also heard that the food alley in Gongdong Market is really great as well. Yeah, so you should definitely check there. And places like the food alley in different places, like the Pajeon, a Korean pancake alley near Haegi Station, is also a great place to enjoy authentic Korean dishes and traditional drinks. And honestly, I'm tempted to go there myself right after this show. So do you guys want to join?
If I have the time, I would love to join.
I'm there.
So I have a quick question for you, Seo. If you actually visit that market, what is like the top 3 or 1 or 2 food that you would like to try out?
Pajeon with makgeolli. Drinks. Yeah, the white rice wine.
So they are all part of the traditional Korean Chuseok food because the Chun, the pancakes, and also makgeolli drink. So these are the recommendations from Seong. Now to you, Ki, our expert.
I would recommend first going to market like Namdaemun Sijang or Namdaemun Market. It's about a 5-minute car ride from the Seoul station. They're famous for a different food alley, but they're also famous for 갈치조림, which is a braised cutlass fish marinated with hot spices. There are many food alleys in between, and also if you're concerned about your health, and I think both of you need to go down here. It's called Gyeongdong-Sijang because as there are plenty of Oriental medicines, they're selling all those ingredients there, and it's very cheap too. So definitely that's another place I recommend. Insadong, located near Jongno Samga Station, is always a great choice. It's been a tourist attraction for decades. There's a lot of traditional teas, snacks, cafes, and last place I recommend is Ikseondong. It's located right next to Insadong, and it's rising, and it's a hip place because many of the cafes and stores have renovated kiwatjip, or the traditional Korean tile-roofed house, or just resident house that's been there for 40, 50 years. So you can see this unique vibe and atmosphere of traditional outer space and the modern interior. So it's luring a lot of younger generations there, and it's a great spot to take photos too.
You sound like an expert in tourist spots as well. Well, Ki, you mentioned a lot of places, but if you could just visit one and try out one like food, dish, or beverage, what would that be?
I would definitely recommend Gwangjang-Sijang, like what Seong has said. But you got to be careful once, because sometimes some people do try to take a rip-off from the tourists, so you have to know the market price, what the real market price is. But they sell a lot of different Chuns, but I recommend you have this 고기전 or 육전. It's just amazing.
Right.
It also goes well with the makgeolli. And then the makgeolli nowadays, they have so many different varieties with different brands. So there's a lot of makgeolli bars rising nowadays, so you can try all different sorts. Just make sure that you're not sober enough so you can walk around with the rifle mindset, but there's a lot of great places.
Right, so you've heard from our food and beverage experts, guys. So if
don't bring your cars there.
Don't bring your cars there.
Another recommendation.
So if you have a chance to visit Korea during the Chuseok holiday, or if you have plans to visit Korea sometime in the future, check these places out and enjoy some Chuseok Korean traditional dishes and drinks. And that's all from us today, but NewsJeans will be back next Thursday, September 19th at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. We're taking a break as it's the Chuseok holiday until next Wednesday. Special thanks today to Yoon Se-yeol.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Ki Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you are celebrating Chuseok wherever you are in the world, and early happy Chuseok to you. We are New generation.
진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K 바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지? 김치?
종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥? 취향 따라, 입맛 따라.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기.
한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸?